Arsenal 4, Tottenham 1, an absolutely outstanding result for Arsenal, and it leaves them right here, top of the tree. 29 points, 6 points clear. Man City on 22, it's obviously not done and dusted, but I think when we go to the end of this season, and I predicted that Arsenal would win the league this year, and it's looking all right at the moment, but obviously things can change. But I cannot stress how big this game was for Arsenal today. Absolutely huge. To win it by hook or by crook, but so to win it in as devastating as a fashion as they have done today, the truth is there's two reasons for this. One, this is a brilliant Arsenal team that defends fantastically, that wins its duels, that, you know, the sort of current tactical meta is that you've got to win your first contact, you've got to win your aerial duels, the second balls. It is a simple game. And that's what I've learned over the last few years, is that these things go in circles, and the teams that win their battles are the teams that come out on top. And Arteta had some big calls to make, and obviously Thomas Frank did as well. And I think Thomas Frank, the overall play through at the back, I didn't hate it, but the personnel, I think he would admit that he got this totally wrong. But for Arsenal to have these two up top, no out-and-out striker really, and for Mourinho to play a very different role to what he normally plays, it was really cute, clever stuff from Arteta. And when you've got these opportunities, I think there's two ways of looking at it for Arsenal fans. You could kind of go, well, no one's really putting the pressure on them. On Arsenal. But people were saying about Liverpool last year. Sometimes the way it works out, to have that opportunity, I think as soon as Man City lost that game yesterday, I thought there's no way Arsenal aren't winning this game. Not due to the fact that Tottenham are obviously struggling for confidence, and probably even more so after that, 0.07 XG in this game. But because Arsenal, I think they smell blood this year. I feel like this is an Arsenal team that is going, nah, not this year. It's not happening. And so when they're getting these moments where teams are dropping points and then they're playing the next day, I do feel, maybe I'm wrong, I'm sure you guys will let me know if I've got this wrong, but it feels like there's always been that opportunity after someone has slipped up for you to go and capitalise on it, and you've done it. And this is another great example of that, and it obviously leaves you in a lovely position, top of the table, 6 points clear. And I thought the big decisions that Arteta made were absolutely spot on. Both the kind of nuanced ways of tactically setting up, but also I think the two lineups here spoke huge dividends, paid huge dividends in this one, because I think keeping Calafiori in that position there was absolutely huge. There was a lot of talk about who's going to come in for Gabriel, and Hincapié, it was the right call there, because I think in terms of what you have to do and the complexities of what you have to do in that position, the left-back position, is so much more complex. And what Calafiori's been able to bring, and you'll see it in the first goal, I'll be breaking it down on the channel tomorrow in a lot more detail, so make sure you don't miss out on that one. But everyone will be talking about Eze and these different players. Calafiori and Trossard, they lead to Danso making a huge mistake, or sort of letting himself down for that first goal. And it was one where, when we think of the momentum bar in the game itself, it was one where Tottenham set up, and you watch the first, 15 seconds, the ball goes back to Vicario, the ball gets played long, Van de Ven plays long, and that's where I don't know what was going on there, and it's more the changes that could have been quicker for me. Me and Thomas Frank, we've had a couple of chats, okay? And he's obviously a very intelligent man, and I think he's been let down by some of these players as well. But the way that he set up today, I thought as soon as you got someone like Richarlison, who cannot hold up the ball at the moment, or certainly in this game, and I spoke to Flav about it, and he's not happy with Richarlison either. So let me know how you're feeling about this team and these players in particular, because it is about going forward that you've been frustrating. But I know Thomas Frank's obviously a good, smart manager, but I think he made some mistakes today. I think Richarlison was a mistake. I think Odegaard was a mistake in this team. And I think by the end of it, Arteta, by playing Calafiori at that left back and allowing him to come in here, Mourinho dropping deep, Eze dropping deep, and then starting to hurt that double pivot, it destroyed them in the end. And that's where the 4 goals come. But if you're playing long as much as they were, Spurs, you've got to make it stick. You have to make it stick, because how on earth are you going to get up the pitch? And I thought Richarlison throughout struggled. Kudus was obviously playing more as a 2 really than anything else, and it was Odegaard who's dropping deep into the back line as soon as Arsenal got themselves on the ball. Kudus normally so good with his hold up play, I thought struggled, down to the fact that Arsenal are just so strong, but he should have been doing better in my opinion as well. And from 1 to 11, it was just defensively poor and switched off for the goals. Danso switched off. There's one where Romero kind of just hoofs the ball in the air and then doesn't get himself back in position. Palhinha and Bentancur kind of having to cover a little bit too much ground. And Odegaard, for me, kind of caught in no man's land and really struggled with Timber, who kind of just, he was too smart for him, too impressive from a tactical point of view. And it's something I said about probably a month or so ago. So I get some bits right, I get some bits wrong. I did say that if you could get Eze in this area of the pitch, he will be devastating. He's going to be so crucial for this Arsenal team because that has been the problem for them. And so I was right on that part. The Calafiori and Timber shout I made a couple of months ago, where I was going, from an attacking point of view, have they really got enough? Hands up. These two are, it's because they're kind of a bit thicker. They're not not your normal bombing on Frimpong kind of fullback, right? But the way they play, the intelligence with which they play, the positivity with which they play, and the movements that they offer, it absolutely destroyed this Tottenham side. Absolutely killed them. Because Udogie was concerned with Saka a lot of the time. Maybe just move it along. He was dealing with Saka all the time. Here we go, move it along. Vicario's disappeared. Don't worry about it. Saka was coming here. Udogie was worried about him. Van de Ven was worried about Eze, who's stopping into this area here. Odegaard didn't truly kind of know what he was doing too much. Should he go with Timber or not? And Timber was happy to go and drive into those areas there. And then it was one where in this little area here, this gap here, he did so much damage. And then Eze could kind of step away. Forgive me. Eze could step away and then get into that zone 14. And obviously, he absolutely destroyed them. That is the signing of the season. Eze is going to be the signing of the season for me. Because if he can finish the way he is right now, and he spoke about it at the end, he spoke about how he's looking to process his arrival to the box, his finishing. He's always been one of those players that can snatch at it just that little bit. And obviously, the second goal, let me know in the comments down below. The precedent has been set in terms of players being offside in front of them. And this is the problem when you're trying to make things black and white now. But that, if the Robertson one doesn't stand, then that shouldn't stand either. I think Everton had a similar situation recently as well. But Arsenal were clearly way too good for this Spurs side. And the way they were able to exploit that back three was, it's got to be so disappointing for Thomas Frank, especially up against a team that didn't have a recognised striker up there. That can't be happening. But with the ball is the glaring thing for Tottenham. That inability, and I've actually sort of stuck up for Bentancur and Palhinha because I think the understandable thing with these two is that you do get 6, 6.5, 7 out of 10. But for whatever reason, there was no confidence to play the ball into them at any point during this game. And so it meant that it went down the side. It then went long. There was, and even there were moments when, Van de Ven would have the ball and Udogie wouldn't bomb on enough. He would just be chilling here. And so you're either going to pass the ball to him in trouble or you're going to play it long and he's not going to have any support there. Richarlison was trying to make his way over there, but nothing was coming from it. By the way, this is the JLA tactics board. If you want to get your hands on it, all the lineups go in, all the injuries go in. You can have save states. It's class. Links in the description. Get involved. But yeah, I think I understand the back three. And I thought it's one where if you have a team that's capable of moving up the pitch, then you've actually got something there. Because if you can get yourself up into this area of the pitch, then you might be able to get yourself some set pieces. Then you've got you've got a lot of big boys that can actually start to hurt maybe this Arsenal side. And I thought there was that possibility with Gabriel not being in the team. But Arteta made a really, really smart move there by having Nketiah slot into that left-sided centre-back position. And look, to be honest, did he play brilliant? He didn't have to do much. That's got to be the killer. If you're a Spurs fan, that's what you're screaming at. It's like, hang on a minute. How are we working our way through the thirds? How are we going to get ourselves back into the game? The only way they were able to get anywhere near the goal was from a shot from the halfway line. So it's poor. Like, I went on a bit of a rant going, you've got to give this guy a chance. And I think you do have to give Thomas Frank a chance, because I think he's been let down by some of the players a little bit here, or maybe the profiles that he wants. But the dynamism in that midfield, it's industrious. But in terms of getting on the ball and being press-proof, there doesn't seem to be that confidence in those two, which is interesting when you've got someone like someone like Bentancur, who last season was, that single pivot getting on the ball all the time. I think they're caught between two places at the moment, but that amount of XG, that inability to keep the ball, I had a look at 50 minutes and they'd made 112 accurate passes in 50 minutes. That's no way near good enough. For Arsenal, as I say, I don't think the shine will be taken off because of the poor performance from Spurs. But Arsenal have got the bit between their teeth here. They are really, really looking strong. They don't look like they're going to concede many goals. Look, do they need a little bit more firepower through the central areas? I think that would allow them to go to another level. But I thought what Arteta did was so clever by allowing Merino to drop deep and allowing Eze to drop deep into those areas outside that double pivot. You had Calafiori stepping in as well, so Merino would come here a lot of the time. Declan Rice would go fill in or even bomb on himself. And it meant that those three, they sort of didn't really know what to do with themselves, because they weren't really being affected. And so then those deeper runs, those sort of late runs, and the Trossard goal is exactly the perfect example of it. It's one where they didn't see it coming. And I mean that. Danso literally didn't see it coming. I'll explain that in the JLA video that's going to be going out tomorrow. Going to make, hopefully, a nice, beautiful video for you guys. So subscribe to this channel. Let me know your thoughts. Is that not the title race over? That would be stupid. But how big is that game for you? Or is it just like you want to be smug and go, Spurs are rubbish? And is this the true Spurs? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been one where I've been kind of pretty easy with understanding that Thomas Frank is a smart man. I know he is. But that was poor. That was really, really poor. And there needs to be a reaction and a tweak, I would imagine, because Thomas Frank's not stupid enough to go, yeah, that'll do. Like, it won't. And you saw some of those changes with, Xavi Simons coming on, who's having those moments. He is still lightweight. Kolo Muani, who I think, look, when we're talking about the starting lineup, like, if you can get Kolo Muani in the team ahead of Richarlison, do it. So maybe there's an injury situation there that I'm not aware of. But I think, that team can be better. And I think having someone like Solanke in the team or Muani up top will give them a chance, because they literally couldn't get the ball up the pitch. So I would get the anger for Spurs fans here right now. And for Arsenal fans, it feels like it's falling, doesn't it? And Eze, if he can keep playing like this, I mean, I really, obviously I believe in him, but like, he's just so cool, isn't he? And he's got himself a hat trick. You couldn't have written it. Trossard, mentioned for him as well, obviously gets himself a goal, but I thought outside of that, I thought he was really, really clever with his movements, and it's so much more subtle than it looks, because it didn't look like much was going on in that first 20 minutes, but they were kind of like toying with them a little bit, and then a bit of, smart movement, Tottenham not tracking their runners, and Arsenal being clinical, and they got themselves a 4-1 win. Unbelievable. Let me know your thoughts. I'll be in the comments. Speak soon.